Welcome to Honest Whispers Review. On this video, I'll be reviewing Wonder Woman Series 1 Wonder Woman action figure. Released by DC Direct back in December 5th, 2007. Designed by Terry Dodson and sculpted by Jack Matthews. This figure is approximately 6 3/4 inches tall. As you can see here, she's actually reaching 7, but then her base does add about 1/4 inch. She has 9 points of articulations, 1 on the neck, 2 shoulders, 2 elbows, 2 hips, and 2 knees. I'm going to go over 6 different categories to review this. First category is design, which basically covers the look, the concept, and the pose. And this one, it does come in a predetermined pose, and although you can do a lot of different things with their arms, this actually is my favorite pose. I do like how she looks, the way she's kind of leaning forward, and the way she's, I don't know, it just has a nice sexy look to it. But on a predetermined pose like this, I would rather not have any points of articulations. So that's just kind of my preference, because why have something that's pretty much useless? Even her head, you really can't turn her head because of her hair. But otherwise, the look itself is amazing. This is one of the best looking Wonder Woman figures of all time. Really captured the look. The artwork by Terry Dodson, and it just proportionately everything looks nice. I do like how she's not too muscular, but at the same time she's not too thin, so that's a nice touch, because you do see some muscle definition and everything. Her costume, exactly the way Terry Dodson designed it, looks clean and nice. And I do like how she's able to hold her lasso rather than having it permanently attached to her belt. So the design itself, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, really can't go wrong with this. So as is, I give it a score, a perfect 10 out of 10. Next category is sculpting, which basically covers the details, the execution, and the quality of the molding. And this one, starting off from the top, her hair is very nicely done, a lot of nice details, and it's not overdone, so it just really looks like how it would in the artwork or the comic book. So really, it just, the execution is near perfect. It is really like 2D come to life in this figure. Now, as far as the rest of the sculpt goes, I mean, proportionally everything looks nice compared to other figures where, you know, certain body parts weren't as proportional. For instance, like Donna Troy, her fist and her face just seems a little bit unproportional. This one, everything looks right, but the quality of the molding, there are some questionable areas. Right here on the side of her shoulder, you could see the seam line of where the plates might have, the seam line of the plates where it separates. And then there are some rough edges here and there, especially like where her joints are, or point of articulation. Not as bad as Donna Troy, but still you do see some rough edges here and there. And certain areas like that, it almost starts to look like clay animation type quality or surface. Otherwise, I mean, you do have to kind of look at it closely, and even here there are some seam lines that's, I mean, almost looks like muscle definition, because there are some muscle definition, but also you could see that there is a seam line that's coming down here on the side. Almost looks like, if I have to point it out, Almost looks like they used the same leg, and that seam line from her costume is visible here. So basically it's not perfect, but also something you have to look really closely at. Everywhere else looks good. For a figure with articulation or seam line, this figure's butt is actually pretty nice. It is proportional. At the same time, the seam line doesn't really get in the way too much. So in other words, where it connects, it doesn't look like one part of her butt cheek is sticking out more. So it does kind of blend in there smoothly. Not perfect, but pretty good compared to other figures I've seen or even own. So therefore, the sculpting score, I give it a near perfect 9 out of 10. Next category is colors. Basically covers the accuracy of the colors, the quality of the paint, and the quality of the paint application. And this one, like others, it does have some gloss finish to it and matte finish. The gloss, it isn't really glossy as much as other ones. The only glossy finish here that you would see in her costume would be her boots, and it has a nice real shine to it, which I like a lot. And then as far as her armor goes, it's in between matte finish and gloss finish, which I like a lot. It's similar to Donna Choi's armor and even Cersei's armor, although it's silver. So it has a bit of a shine to it, but not as shiny or reflective as the boots. So very nice touch and quality to the painting. Now as far as the application goes, there are some areas where it doesn't look quite perfect, but you do have to look really closely at it. There are some lines that isn't as straight. You could see right here on her chest, there is a bit of her skin color that's going on to the edge of her bustier, and at the same time, you know, otherwise, I mean, there isn't really much other to point out. You might see some of that same issues here on her bracelets. You could see some of the silver bleeding onto the skin, or vice versa, the skin tone color bleeding onto the edge of the bracelet. This bracelet is pretty much nicely done. You can see the lines here, not completely straight. There is some squiggling, you know, going on right there on the edge, and even some bleeding right here on top of her left boot. So not quite perfect, but when you start looking from a distance, you really can't tell. So overall, it is nicely done. And as far as her stars go, her stars have been imprinted, but I do like that everything is pretty much symmetrical. You do have this one area where it looks like there's a star missing, but beyond that, everything's nicely spaced. And since that's an area you really can't see too well, so not a huge complaint. But as you can see, it's not perfect, and it does have some flaws. Therefore, the colors, I give it a near perfect 9 out of 10. Next category is packaging, and as far as packaging goes, it comes in a standard blister card packaging, or some call it a bubble card packaging. It is nicely laid out. I do like how it ties the color and the themes to the Wonder Woman comic book series done by Terry Dodson. But beyond that, everything else is pretty much average. The card itself is a common card, basically used for all the other characters in the series. The only difference is that they printed out a sticker and pretty much attached it here on the side, or top side. And not all of them are always all like straight and everything, so you can see how it's even kind of crooked and stuff. Back is the same for everyone, so all of them have pretty much the same details. So again, really not that, special or anything like that. Pretty much average. And I did give a score of 6 out of 10 for all the other ones. But for this one, what makes me a little bit upset is that when they designed this package, it basically doesn't fit the figure properly. So it does kind of create this bow leg, effect right here. So one of her leg tends to be a little bit crooked, and it's just kind of shoved in there. Once you do take it out of the package, it does kind of adjust, so it isn't as bad. But still, anything where they design the package that kind of affects the condition of the figure is usually not a good thing. So that's why I give the score for Wonder Woman's packaging a slightly below average, 4 out of 10. Next category is value. Value basically covers suggested retail price versus the aftermarket price, and then suggested retail price or aftermarket price versus the quality. And as far as the quality goes, just like all the other figures in the series, this is definitely a high quality figure for something that came out in 2007, and also that was retailed at around, I believe, $12.99. It could have been $9.99, but I'm pretty positive this was on the $12.99 range. And now with this, the lowest you could find for a new one that's still in its package, Wonder Woman will probably fetch you at about $65 at the lowest, with or without shipping. And on average, you will see a lot of listings, a lot of these figures, a new one listed at about $100. So definitely has a lot of aftermarket value, highest out of all the figures in the series, and definitely even highest out of all Wonder Woman figures ever made. So definitely up there. And even if you had to buy this figure at around $65 to $100, well, believe it or not, if you look at it, it pretty much says it's worth it. And bottom line is that this figure will continue to raise or go up in value. So I could see this both ways, as an investment and at the same time as something you would want to keep for your personal collection. So a lot of nice key points, has a lot of high value. So therefore I give the value score in this figure a perfect 10 out of 10. Final category is overall, which basically accumulates the 5 prior categories: design, sculpting, colors, packaging, and value. And this one, as I mentioned, this is hands down one of the best looking Wonder Woman figures ever made. And she looks good. That's the really key point. Her face, her body, everything about it overall looks great. She doesn't have like some weird ugly face or anything like that. So definitely a huge plus. Even body wise, it's just very unique compared to other Wonder Woman figures. It just looks a lot more feminine. And at the same time, just the pose itself too, it just has this really sexy pose that you just don't see with other Wonder Woman figures or even female figures. So it's a huge plus for me. And also the value itself, this is probably one of the most expensive Wonder Woman figures out there right now. So even with that, that's a huge plus with this figure. So there's a lot of things that's going for this figure, and therefore I give this overall score a near perfect 9 out of 10. So to recap: design 10 out of 10, sculpting 9 out of 10, colors 9 out of 10, packaging 4 out of 10, value 10 out of 10. And overall, 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time. If you haven't read Wonder Woman series, I believe 3 by Terry Dodson, then I definitely recommend it. Also, continue reading your King James Version Bible and eat your vitamin C daily.